you're going to see a lot of headlines in social media and in the papers about how Republicans in the United States Senate are proposing to advance Second Amendment rights, Second Amendment protections. And some of these senators are going to be people like John Cornyn, who negotiated away our Second Amendment rights just in June of 2022. I'm going to flag for you why you should ignore these headlines and realize you should just call BS on all of them, unfortunately so. Stay tuned. I'll explain why when we get back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and New York Times bestselling author. If you haven't subscribed to the Four Boxes Diner Second Amendment channel, please do so. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers as fast as we can to help us with the algorithms. All right. So today in the press, I saw two stories that at first glance, if you're in support of the Second Amendment, you'd be happy about. The first story is that United States Senator from Texas, John Cornyn, was proposing a bill in the United States Senate for national concealed carry reciprocity so that you could carry your gun if you got a concealed carry permit in one state all around the country, like a driver's license works with cars. Now, I call total BS on this. I'm also going to call BS on something else, even though these other senators I like more than John Cornyn. Specifically, Senator John Kennedy, Republican from Louisiana, and Senator, I want to get this right, Senator Roger Marshall, right, from Mississippi, sponsored a bill called ready for this, the SHORT Act, which stands for Stop Harassing Owners of Rifles Today. And the essential part of this is to take away from the ATF the authority to regulate and oversee tax stamps for short barrel rifles and short barrel shotguns, and presumably in response to the ATF's recent regulations on short barrel rifles and the pistols with stabilizing braces. Now, I call total BS on this, especially when it comes to Senator John Cornyn. Here's why. You may recall in June of 2022, on the eve of a huge Second Amendment victory in Reciprocity versus Bruin by the Supreme Court, on that eve, the Republicans, a group of Republicans in the United States Senate rolled over and negotiated away our Second Amendment rights by expanding the number of people in America that are prohibited people from owning and possessing guns under 18 U.S.C. 922. They expanded that, made it easier to get more and more people ensnared so they could be denied forever their Second Amendment rights, and also trying to encourage red flag laws nationwide with subsidies and the like. The lead negotiator of this bill was John Cornyn from Texas, a traitor to the Second Amendment as far as I'm concerned. Now, I wrote a series of articles for Breitbart. For example, here's one of them here. Hey, conservatives, don't let Republicans negotiate your gun rights away. Here's an example. I think I did a couple others as well, and I did a series of videos pointing out that the Republicans were handling this entirely wrong for 1,000 reasons. But its most basic essence, and the reason why I bring up what happened today with these proposed bills, and again, I'm much more harsh on this when it comes to Senator Cornyn than I am with Senators Marshall or Kennedy. I put them in different categories, and I generally like them, unlike John Cornyn, who I like a whole lot less. Here's the thing. If these Republicans were serious about protecting our Second Amendment rights and allowing for concealed carry nationwide and for amending the National Firearms Act, let me ask you this as a matter of common sense. Why is it that they decide to propose these bills today when there is no chance in heck, right? No chance in heck, we got, G-rated audience out there, that it's going to be enacted, these bills. Why didn't these bills get proposed and negotiated by John Cornyn as that so-called bipartisan gun control thing in June of 2022? Which not only hurt the gun movement with respect to encouraging red flag laws at the state level and also expanding the number of people that are denied gun rights. By virtue of having this talking point, President Biden and the Democrats were able to say they were getting things done, and even on gun issues. They were utterly getting destroyed on the gun issue. They were on the verge of the ultimate defeat in Reciprocity versus Bruin. And the Republicans, or at least some of the Republicans, not all of them, but John Cornyn in particular, led the charge to surrender our rights. A total loser move, in my opinion. So here we have John Cornyn coming back, trying to cover his tracks, as I see it, by proposing this concealed carry national reciprocity bill, which I support and would love to see passed. But it ain't going to pass because it can't get through the Senate filibuster of 60 votes. So this is total virtue signaling. It is an attempt to try to dupe American gun owners and Second Amendment advocates into believing that John Cornyn is somehow good on guns, when his record, given what happened in June of 2022, proves just the absolute opposite as far as I'm concerned. So, likewise, this pistol brace stabilizing issue, right? The pistols with stabilizing brace issue is not new. This idea had been floated around for over a year. I bring this up because in June of 2022, when the Republicans in the Senate were negotiating our rights away, guess what? They could have talked about cutting back on the ATF authority. They could have talked about removing short barrel rifles and short barrel shotguns there as part of that bipartisan deal. They could have talked about expanding concealed carry nationwide as part of that bipartisan deal. Instead, they surrendered. It wasn't bipartisan. It was bipartisan in the sense that the Republicans signed on to surrendering our rights. But what did American gun owners get out of this? The only argument you can make that American gun owners got anything out of the June 2022 federal legislation enacted by the Democrats with a handful of Republicans supporting them is that somehow we expanded the number of security officers in schools, but those are really just expanding the budget for government employees to carry guns. What does that do for the private American gun owner? Absolutely nothing as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely nothing. And yet the Republicans did it. And now these Republicans like John Cornyn have the gall to come here and say, I am good on guns and I want to enact national concealed carry reciprocity in an environment that is impossible, literally impossible for this to occur without leverage. We had leverage to the extent there was any leverage available in June of 2022. And rather than saying to Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, if you want to have all these laws, that's fine, but we're going to want something in return. And here's what we're going to want in return. And of course, the Republicans in the Senate utterly screwed this up exactly as I predicted. And by the way, they are not ignorant because I and others talked about the ideas of getting something in return at the time. So they can't play dumb. They can't play ignorant like, oh, we didn't know. Of course they knew. People talked to them about this, I'm sure. People read the newspapers. They saw the television shows and the like. They knew what was going on. They did it anyway. So my only advice to you is when you see these press releases and stories about how Republicans are proposing pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun right legislation in the United States Senate, the truth is it's BS. It's not going to go anywhere, okay? Unfortunately so. It's not that I want it. I'm not giving you news I want to give you. But the reality is it's virtue signaling. It's signaling that they're good on guns, knowing they'll never have to take a vote. So to sum up, when Republicans had an opportunity to actually get some of these things done as part of that so-called bipartisan gun control bill or that gun safety bill or whatever you want to call it, we could have gotten things in return in June of 2022, especially given the fact we were on the eve of a major victory of the Supreme Court in Serpa versus Bruin. And instead, Republicans like John Cornyn literally surrendered and got us nothing. Nothing. And now for them to come out with press releases and bragging about how we need to respect Second Amendment rights and get all this legislation passed when they know it's not going to happen and cannot happen because of the makeup of the Senate, to me, they think we in the Second Amendment movement are dupes. We're dumb. We don't know what's going on. We're unsophisticated rubes as far as I'm concerned. That's what they think. But unfortunately for them, it is not true. Because there's people out there that are really smart and know what's going on and are seeing this, and they can see through this kind of behavior and virtue signaling. And we're not going to let them get away with this. We're going to call them out on shows like this one and others to let them know that we know the game they're playing, and we will remember this in the future. Okay, hope you learned a little bit something here at the Four Boxes Diner. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We'll see you again soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.